The coming months will not be like the others, and deep down, you already feel it. That feeling that something massive is about to happen, that the world is about to change. Irreversibly, it is not anxiety. It is your spirit trying to wake you up. Stop. Because today I will reveal to you what is about to come. Events that few have the courage to name. Stay until the end. The fourth point is the one that will change the way you look at every single piece of news from this day forward. And at the end, I have something special for you. Do not keep this message just for yourself. Leave a like, write in the comments the city you are following us from, and help us reach those who are searching for answers in silence. I spent decades convincing myself that faith was enough just as it was. I went to Mass, I said my prayers, I wore the cross around my neck, but inside me, there was something motionless, like water that had stopped flowing. I did not even admit it to myself. I thought that was, devotional routine, and that was the same thing as spiritual life. I was deeply mistaken, and it took death to make me realize it. My name is Marisol Ferrer. I am 62 years old. I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I worked for 30 years as a nurse in a provincial hospital. I am a widow. I have a son, Eduardo, who works as an engineer in another city, and a daughter, Celia, who lives near me with her husband. My faith had always been part of my identity. I was Filipino. I was Catholic. The two terms seemed inseparable, but they were words, not roots. Then the earth shook, and with it everything else shook. I will not dwell on the event itself. You have all heard about it on the news. It was a devastating earthquake, one of the worst in recent years. Many structures collapsed, including mine. When the rescuers found me under the rubble, I no longer belonged to this world. I was not going toward the darkness as I would have imagined, but towards something so different from anything I had ever conceived that even today, looking for the right words, I realize how inadequate human language is to describe certain realities. The first thing I perceived was the total absence of pain. After hours of agony, that absence was already a revelation in itself. Then came the light. But to call it light is like calling the ocean a puddle. It was alive. It was conscious. It recognized me. And in recognizing me, it made me feel seen for the first time in my life, seen to the marrow, down to the thoughts I had never said out loud, down to the wounds I had never shown anyone. Yet that total vision was not frightening. It was the closest thing to love I had ever experienced. I found myself in a place without coordinates. The ground beneath my feet was solid yet transparent, like living crystal traversed by rhythmic pulsations. The breath of something immensely larger than the entire universe. The air was music, not melody in the ordinary sense, but layered harmonies that resonated directly within the essence of who I was, carrying meanings that no language could contain. Every note was a revelation. Every silence between the notes was equally full of meaning. And then I saw him coming toward me through that impossible light. I recognized him even before understanding how it was possible. He was not the meek image from the holy cards of my childhood. He was a presence that carried upon himself the authority of all creation. His eyes contained depths that embraced everything that had ever existed and everything that would ever exist. On his hands, the scars shone like divine fire, wounds that had conquered death and thrown wide open doors that no human being could have opened alone. I fell to my knees, not out of devotion, out of the physical impossibility of remaining standing. Marisol, he said, and my name in his voice contained more truth than any prayer I had ever recited. Lord, I replied, and tears fell without me being able to stop them. I believed in you only with my lips. I prayed out of habit, not out of love. I served on the wards for 30 years, but I did it out of a sense of duty, not for you. I kept you out of the real part of me. Forgive me. He knelt before me. Before me. He lifted my face with hands that bore the marks of the nails. The touch was pure warmth, a tenderness that dissolved decades of emotional distance in an instant. You sought the truth with a sincere heart, he said. You wept beside the dying when no one was looking at them. You held the hands of frightened children during the nights on the ward. You loved through actions even when words failed you. This reached me, Marisol, and that is why I am sending you back. He made a brief but heavy pause. But first you must see what is about to happen. The time is shorter than the world knows. The vision opened around us. We found ourselves suspended above the earth, and from that perspective, I saw something that took my breath away. The planet was wrapped in a network of darkness. Thick filaments connecting major cities, centers of financial power, government palaces. The network pulsed with an energy that I immediately recognized as evil. And along those threads moved entities that I could not describe otherwise than as predators of souls. I thought of the words of Peter. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. I had read them 100 times. Only now did I understand that they were a literal description. What am I seeing? I asked. The architecture of deception, he replied. And in his voice was a sadness that was also determination. For generations, the enemy has woven this web, systems built on lies and fear, financial structures designed to enslave, media outlets that spread confusion, political powers that serve the darkness while pretending to serve the light. But the moment when this network begins to tear is very close, Marisol, closer than anyone imagines. He pointed with his hand, and the vision shifted toward Jerusalem. Overlaid upon the physical city was a spiritual reality that my mind could barely process. Enormous, dark principalities stood over the holy places, their shapes shifting and grotesque chains of control extending throughout the world. They have reigned unchallenged for too long, Jesus said, and in his voice resonated a righteous anger, clean, without a shadow of personal revenge. But their authority is about to end. The vision moved forward toward a moment that felt as imminent as the next breath. The dawn touched Asia first, then Europe, then the Americas, but with that light, something else was descending. Angelic armies, vast beyond any human calculation. Their wings blazed with sacred fire. Their faces bore the fierce joy of warriors who have waited millennia for this moment. I thought of Revelation, of John, who had written, I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. But what I was seeing was greater than any image I had ever associated with those words. How will people react? I asked. Most people, Jesus said, will experience the revelation like a falling veil. For decades, humanity has lived seeing only what it has been allowed to see. It will finally see that it has never been alone, that the spiritual battle is not a poetic metaphor, but a concrete and immediate reality. In Jerusalem, the angels descended like an army reclaiming occupied territory. The dark principalities I had seen fled screaming as they were driven from their fortresses. The chains holding the city captive exploded into particles of life. Orthodox Jews fell to their knees weeping. Muslims, prostrated in prayer, found themselves unable to stand up, overwhelmed. Convicted atheists found themselves face to face with evidence that no rational system could contain. This is only the beginning, Jesus said. From Jerusalem, the revelation expands throughout the world. The veil between heaven and earth will thin until it becomes transparent, not by force, but through the fulfillment of prophecy and the weight of accumulated prayer. And the people furthest from faith I asked. Those who have spent a lifetime building arguments against God? Like Paul on the road to Damascus, he replied. They will be confronted with an irrefutable truth. Some will convert and become my most powerful witnesses. Others will harden their hearts even more, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. The human can choose to reject. He paused. Free will remains, always, even in the hour of greatest revelation. The vision showed me scenes from all over the world simultaneously. In New York, angels above Times Square whose wings extended for entire city blocks, tourists dropping their cameras, police officers taking off their hats, businessmen in suits falling to their knees on the sidewalk. In London, angels materialized above Parliament during a session broadcast live. For 3 hours, every politician present lost the ability to lie. Hidden truths came out into the open. Scandals were confessed before the cameras. The nation watched, dismayed. There is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known. The words of Jesus in the Gospel of Luke were being fulfilled to the letter. In Rome, an angel appeared on live television during a press conference where a high prelate was attempting to declare the manifestations the work of the devil. The prelate collapsed, unable to continue. That image went around the world in a few minutes. The church divided, those who embraced the truth and those who took refuge in tradition, rejecting what their own eyes saw. In China, angelic manifestations above the forbidden city rendered every attempt at censorship powerless. Soldiers sent to disperse the crowds converted instead of repressing. Videos that were impossible to block because too many people were uploading them at the same time broke through the great firewall. Technology, Jesus said, will be both a tool and a battlefield. Videos will spread in real time. Governments will issue emergency laws to declare the image as dangerous misinformation, but it will be too late. Truth moves faster than any human censorship. Then the vision grew darker. I must show you this too, Jesus said, and I felt his reluctance. You must see everything, Marisol. I saw governments gathered in emergency meetings, parliaments declaring the manifestations a threat to social stability, families separated, believers arrested. In some nations, camps built specifically for those who refused to deny what they had seen. Why do you allow it? I exclaimed. If you can send armies of angels, why not stop the persecutors? Because, he replied with a firm but not cold voice. Faith tested through suffering becomes indestructible. Martyrs have always made the church grow more than 1,000 comfortable preachers. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. Tertullian understood this. Every tear is counted. Every wound is seen. I will protect my own spiritually. Invisible angels will stand beside them in cells. My spirit will sustain them in the darkest moments. He showed me prisons where extraordinary things were happening. Believers packed into overcrowded cells singing hymns with such intensity that the guards, one after another, converted. They threw away the keys and joined the prisoners in prayer. I thought of Paul and Silas in the prison of Philippi. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. History was repeating itself on a global scale. What the enemy intends for evil, Jesus said with a peaceful smile, I use for good. I have always done so. How will humanity react when all this happens? I asked. The vision widened further. I no longer saw a single nation, but entire continents, immense cities and remote villages, deserts, mountains, oceans, and above every place I recognized the same spiritual reality I had seen before, an invisible battle that had always taken place behind the veil of the material world. Humanity, Jesus said, has gone through wars, famines, epidemics, and crises of all kinds. Many have lost hope. Many have stopped believing that anything exists beyond what they can see. But in the heart of man, there remains a thirst that no wealth, no technology, and no power has managed to satisfy. When the veil thins, that thirst will awaken. I saw scenes from every part of the earth, workers stopping their labor and raising their eyes to the sky, families gathered in their homes while an inexplicable peace filled the rooms. Doctors, teachers, farmers, young and old, stopping suddenly, aware that something greater was happening before them. But there will also be divisions, he continued, and his tone grew more solemn. Many will welcome the truth with joy. Others will fight it with all their might. Religious leaders, politicians, and influential people will try to impose their own interpretation of events, and many will be confused, not knowing who to believe. How will they distinguish the truth from the false? By the fruit, he answered simply. By their fruits you will know them. What comes from me produces peace even in chaos, love even toward those who oppose, and truth even when it is difficult to accept. What is false produces fear, division, and the desire to control others. Anyone who sincerely seeks the truth will know how to recognize the difference. Then he showed me something that broke my heart in two and pieced it back together. I saw my son Eduardo, sitting in front of a screen, watching the news with wide eyes. I knew him well. He had always had a difficult relationship with faith, too shaped by engineering logic to yield something that could not be measured. I saw him stand up slowly from his chair, leave the house, and walk to a church he had not attended in years. He sat in the very last pew. He stayed there for a long time, motionless, in silence. When you return, Jesus said, your testimony will answer the question he does not yet know he has. Do not try to convince him with theological arguments. Just tell what you saw. Truth has a specific weight that no rhetoric can imitate. And Celia? I asked, thinking of my daughter. Celia will believe right away, he said with a disarming simplicity. Not because she is less intelligent than her brother, but because she kept a corner of her heart open. Sometimes a corner is enough. The vision took me even further. I saw Jerusalem transformed into a sea of humanity. People camped everywhere, arrived from every nation. A supernatural peace pervaded everything despite the impossible crowd. I saw an imam and a rabbi looking into each other's eyes for the first time, not as adversaries, but as brothers, both overwhelmed by the same presence. They embraced, weeping, while the angel above them proclaimed peace upon the city. That image, Jesus told me, would travel all over the world. It would become the symbol of what is possible when heaven touches earth. I saw healings that defied any medical explanation, disappeared tumors, paralytics walking, regenerated organs. The world of science divided between those who accepted the supernatural and those who clung desperately to materialism. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Isaiah had written it centuries before, and now it was being fulfilled. I saw famous people, artists, and celebrities abandoning everything to embrace a greater truth. A musician famous for his songs about violence, donating all his possessions and starting to testify in the streets. An international actress using 3 minutes of a worldwide live broadcast to tell what the angels had showed her about her life. Millions of people who would never have listened to a preacher, Jesus said, will listen to someone they admire. I will use every available voice, every channel, every heart that opens becomes a door for others. The light around us was changing, the vision was concluding, and I felt it as one feels the end of a dream, that awareness that something precious is slipping away. Jesus looked at me with eyes full of love and urgency at the same time. It is time for you to return, Marisol. Your body is in a hospital bed. The people you love are praying beside you. How will I tell all this? I asked. Who will believe a retired nurse? It is not you who must convince anyone, he replied with gentle firmness. It is you who must testify. The difference is enormous. He who convinces manipulates. He who testifies exposes himself. Say what you saw. Let the words do their work. It is not you who change hearts. That is my job. Yours is only to open your mouth. And the central message? I asked, if I had to reduce it to a few words. He stopped. He looked at me with that intensity that contained millennia. Wake up, he said. That is the message. It is high time to awake out of sleep. Paul wrote it to the Romans, and I write it now in your heart. The time of habit faith is over. What is about to happen requires awake hearts, not sleeping ones. It requires a real relationship, not a routine. It is not enough to wear the cross around your neck if you do not carry it in your chest. He paused. Tell people not to be afraid. Tell them that peace is the signal. What comes from me brings peace even when it is shocking. Tell them that the divisions in the churches and families are not the end, but the separation of the wheat from the chaff, as I said myself. And tell them this above all other things. I know them by name, every single one of them. I love them with a love that no catastrophe, no persecution, no government, and no army can ever break. Neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature will ever be able to separate us from the love of God. Paul understood it. It was true then. It is true now. It always will be. He embraced me. In that embrace, I felt all the love he had for me, for my land, for each of the human beings crawling on the earth at that moment. Fragile and precious creatures in a universe that contained them like a mother contains her children. Go with my strength, he said. Do not fear. I will be with you at every moment. And remember, what you saw of the coming months is only the prelude. The curtain is opening, Marisol. Not closing. Opening. Then the white. Marisol spent 30 years wearing the cross around her neck without carrying it in her chest. And perhaps you too, while listening, felt something move inside. It is no coincidence that you are here. The real question is not whether God exists. It is whether you have ever really opened the door to him or just showed him the facade. 3 concrete things you can start this very day. 1. Choose a moment today, even just 5 minutes, and speak to God as you would speak to someone who knows you to the marrow, without formulas, without reciting, just you and him. 2. Use peace as a compass. Everything that generates fear and division does not come from the light. Learn to recognize the difference and choose accordingly, every day. 3. Do not keep to yourself what you are understanding. Share it with at least one person close to you, because testimony changes the speaker even before changing the listener. We have decided to open something special, a private group designed for those who are no longer satisfied with a superficial faith. Inside, we will study prophecies, read world events together through spiritual eyes, share personal experiences in total freedom, pray, and sustain each other in the darkest moments. It will be a true, deep community without judgment and without fear, one of the few where you can speak openly about these things without feeling strange or alone. If you feel that this place is made for you, write "guide" in the comments. We'll be waiting for you, because no one should walk alone on such an important road, and we want to walk together with you.